Tonight said Daly College is an ideal location because it's move-in ready and a fraction of the cost of a hotel. But many in the crowd didn't want to hear it.
When do citizens of the United States of America come first?
Welcome to Male Reality Lessons, where topics are reviewed and discussed as iron sharpens iron. Today on Male Reality Lessons, we want to talk about why in this country those who sacrifice the most are being treated the worst. With election season upon us, inflation excessively high, money being hemorrhaged out of the country, and people cannot afford gas or be able to afford a decent place to live, we got immigrants invading the country, and still we have those who sacrifice themselves on the battlefield living in the streets. So I ask you,
when do citizens of the United States of America come first?
Russia invaded Ukraine in early 2022. The U.S. has sent tanks and missiles and artillery and helicopters, drones, missile defense systems, troop transports, radar, loads of infantry weapons and equipment, and so on. In all, more than $75 billion worth of aid has gone to Ukraine from the U.S. And military spending, this part right here, accounts for well over half of that total. That is much, much more than the U.S. sends to any other country, and it absolutely dwarfs American contributions to Israel, which in 2021 was in the typical range of $3 to $4 billion, Laura.
Wow, just seeing the numbers laid out, it's really stunning.
A migrant family of 4 in New York could get over 20 grand a month in freebies. 500 a night at a hotel, 130 a day for food, and having 2 kids in public school costs us 5 grand a month. We didn't even tack on Mayor Adams' $1,000 cash gift cards, the free health care at the ER, or the free phones and free lawyers, or the $400,000 in free college tuition per dreamer. Meanwhile, taxpayers with jobs in New York pay thousands to live in a closet.
Tonight said Daly College is an ideal location because it's move-in ready and a fraction of the cost of a hotel. But many in the crowd didn't want to hear it.
When do citizens of the United States of America come first?
On the southwest side, city officials getting an earful.
How about this? Give them all these politicians' addresses and put them in their backyards, in their basements, in their houses.
This meeting at Richard J. Daly College comes as the city, starting as early as this weekend, prepares to use this gymnasium until August 1st and 2 auxiliary classrooms on the campus through the end of November to shelter more than 400 migrants.
This is about being human and providing humane spaces for them.
I serve my country. We need to give these immigrants a chance.
But the debate igniting anger about how the city for decades has treated its poor.
We do not take care of our own people.
There's no resources taken from our shelter system and the housing within our shelter system, as well as outreach agencies who are providing services on the street.
This gathering comes a day after the city council at a heated meeting approved $51 million in emergency migrant funding. That money only expected to last through the end of this month.
You speak very much about the money. It's our money. Every dollar you give is our money.
That's a damn shame.
Major U.S. city, San Diego, buckling as it grapples with a growing number of migrants. Border Patrol dropping off hundreds of people at local bus stops from as far away as China and as close as Mexico.
Colombia. I'm from Senegal. I'm from Chad.
Volunteers were told to expect more than 350 street releases in the metro area on Friday alone.
I wanted to see what was happening down here. I know that they're going to be increasing the number of migrant drop-offs to about 1,000 a day, and that concerns us, especially considering the county has closed their program to house them.
The county had been funding a welcome center for migrants since October. It offered a safe place to charge phones, eat, and use the bathroom before many continued their travels. But late last week, that funding dried up, putting the burden on a patchwork of remaining nonprofits, many of those relying on the nonprofits' help, fleeing political chaos and crime.
De mi país, Ecuador, se encuentra al momento en un conflicto armado interno. Pandillas se quieren apoderar del país.
In a statement to NBC, Customs and Border Patrol said in part that, quote, this situation is the latest example of the pressing need for Congress to provide additional resources and take legislative action to fix our outdated immigration laws. Earlier this month, a political standoff in D.C. left no solution on the table. A bipartisan deal fell through. House Republicans unwilling to free up funds without sweeping changes to immigration policies.
Republicans simply cannot vote for the bill in good conscience. And that is why I declared it dead on arrival, and it looks like right now it may be in some jeopardy.
California Governor Gavin Newsom blasting the ordeal, stating in part that, quote, when it comes to border security, Republicans in Congress have done nothing but create chaos and sabotage any attempts at progress. From October to January, Border Patrol released more than 500,000 people with orders to appear in immigration court. The dwindling funds mean less temporary shelters for them to go to while they wait to see a judge.
And Tom, that Welcome Center opened its doors just last fall. It was even touted as an example for other cities to follow, but $6 million in several months later, it is now gone. The center saying that its resources were stretched to the limit, and now other nonprofits are jumping in to help all of those migrants from all over the world get to where they're going. But some of them say that the most treacherous part of the journey is now over.
If you're enjoying the video, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Male Reality Lessons.
Any given night, there are more than 65,000 homeless people living in Los Angeles. There is not enough affordable housing, and even when there is, some people struggle to get into those units, including veterans on disability. Stephanie Sy looks at some of the obstacles leading to LA's homeless population, the largest in the country.
On the sprawling 388-acre campus of the West Los Angeles VA, dotted with palm trees, a construction boom is underway. 3 new buildings have gone up this year to provide qualified veterans low-income housing. 63-year-old Jack Vicente has been settled in his gleaming new studio apartment for a month. The Army vet was working as a bellman at a hotel when he suffered a back injury and was let go from his job.
And that's what led to me being pretty much homeless for the next 4 or 5 months until I was able to go to the VA, and the VA helped me get into a lovely, secure place like this. In my opinion, the promise that they made when I joined up, they're really keeping their word now.
But there are other veterans who feel the opposite.
Where are you living now?
Right there.
36-year-old Levon Johnson, an Army veteran, lives right outside the VA campus in a tent.
You've been back here for about, what, a week and a half?
About that.
He was living in one of these tiny shelters on the VA campus, but he says it caught fire and he was removed from the temporary housing program. Johnson has been chronically homeless for more than a decade. Even as new apartment buildings go up on the VA campus, he is locked out.
You applied to stay at one of these buildings, and you were rejected.
Yes.
Why?
My annual yearly income was too much, but $200.
Something is wrong here.
Johnson's income is actually his monthly disability check. While deployed in Iraq with the 1st Cavalry Division, he says his unit was hit by a rocket.
I get shot back, and I land on my feet, then I fell over. I remember falling over, hitting my head, and it's just blank after that.
Due to a diagnosis of serious mental illness, he receives full compensation of over $4,000 a month.
So you would think that would be enough to rent an apartment here?
Not in California. Plus, I have bills and other debts I have to pay off every month, too. So, like, all my money is gone. I don't have anything for myself for the month. You know, so it's just a vicious cycle.
Johnson falls into a category of veterans who stand on a so-called benefits cliff. He gets so much in disability compensation that other essentials like housing fall off. It's estimated 8,000 homeless veterans around the country may lose out on low-income housing opportunities because their benefits put them over income caps.
This particular building has very strict eligibility criteria.
We met Keith Harris, who oversees the VA's efforts to house homeless veterans in LA in one of the shiny new apartments on campus. A veteran has to be at least 62 and make under $42,000 a year to qualify to live in this building.
We know what the solutions are. Either we get eligibility caps raised so that veterans who are receiving VA benefits can qualify, or we stop counting VA benefits as income.
Harris says another problem is that other housing lies in parts of LA where many unhoused vets don't want to live, so they don't use the affordable housing vouchers that are available to them.
There are close to 50 buildings. There are a couple hundred vacancies in those buildings.
Why are there vacancies?
It's maddening. I want to acknowledge it's very frustrating because you've got thousands of homeless veterans, you've got hundreds of vacant units, you've got thousands of unused vouchers. The biggest problem in filling those is one of location. Many of those are far away from the medical center.
And the medical center is located on the west side of Los Angeles, where the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment is more than $3,000 a month.
I beg your pardon? I beg your pardon?
A housing voucher or disability check doesn't go far here.
There simply are not enough units for everybody who needs one, much less could afford one.
As challenging as it is to build affordable housing on the VA campus, it's even more onerous everywhere else in Los Angeles. Between historically discriminatory zoning laws and community resistance, it's an uphill battle.
Few know that better than Dora Leon Gallo, the head of a community of friends, which has been providing housing for people with mental health disorders for 35 years. Just like some veterans with disabilities, some people with serious mental illnesses in the general population benefit from having support services where they live. A quarter of LA's homeless population has these disorders.
The concept was to build apartment communities where people had a lease and that there would be services on site in the buildings to help sure that people had the services they need to live independently.
Leon Gallo walks us through the lengthy process of developing what's called permanent supportive housing.
First thing we have to do is find property.
That's also the first roadblock.
Because we're kind of restricted in where we can build apartment buildings, it drives the cost higher as well, because we're all competing for the same limited land.
According to one study, more than 70% of residential areas in the LA area are zoned for single-family homes, a planning policy that has roots in racial discrimination.
What the hell is wrong with you people?
Same time, simultaneously, we're looking for financing.
That's the next roadblock. A nonprofit has to compete for funding from various sources, all with different requirements, restrictions, and timelines.
And along the same time, we're also meeting with the community.
And that, many housing developers say, is one of the biggest roadblocks. Even while Californians have approved measures to increase funding to address homelessness, not in my backyard attitudes have blocked or delayed many projects.
When you don't allow this type of housing to be built, then people are forced to live further away. People are forced to live in their cars.
70-year-old Wallace Richardson had been living out of his truck for more than a year when he was linked up with one of the 50 buildings developed by a community of friends. He's been in his Silver Lake apartment for more than a decade. One of his last jobs was with AmeriCorps.
During the time that I was an outreach worker, I got a firsthand look at myself. I thought that I was mentally sane, but I wasn't. I had issues, and the issues I had was coming up from being an abused child.
What has it been like to have this stable housing for the last 10 years?
It has made all the difference in the world. In fact, it has saved my life because I was on a downhill spiral.
Back near the VA campus, Levon Johnson is still waiting for his life jacket, and he's losing his patience.
I can't sit still knowing that people are like me, getting screwed over blatantly. Why them?
He's part of a recent lawsuit that accuses the VA of not providing enough affordable housing to the neediest veterans. The plaintiffs demand 3,500 permanent supportive units on or near the VA campus.
My understanding is there are lawsuits going back to 2011 saying, why isn't the VA doing more to house homeless veterans here? Why now? Why just in the last couple of years?
The draft master plan was put into place as part of resolving the first lawsuit, and it had a very aggressive timeline on the units that would be built. Turned out very unrealistically so.
The VA realized recently that if sites were prepared ahead of time for developers, they could speed up the process. They've already spent $70 million on things like leveling land and adding underground utilities to make sites build ready.
That's why it looks like a rush. This is the way it should have been happening all along.
The agency is aiming to complete 1,200 units by 2030. Whether one of those units is in LaVon Johnson's future remains in doubt.
Here are my final thoughts. I know in this country many people feel indifferent about the military. Well, you can feel indifferent until it is time you need them. My personal opinion, I come from a family of veterans that have actually served, become disabled, as well as died in service to the country. It is a sad state of affairs when we can't find resources, housing, or funding for those who've sacrificed the most on behalf of this country, while in the same token allowing millions of folks to come in who have not paid a dime or dollar to taxes or served in any capacity in the U.S. Armed Forces, as well as hemorrhaging funds abroad from wars that basically don't serve the American public. But I want to hear from you in the comments section. Give me your thoughts and opinions on this topic or any other topic here on Male Reality Lessons. As always, I want to thank you for watching. Please subscribe, smash that like button, and have a good day.